I caught up with Republican leader Neil Chatterjee, who is also the former chair of the U.S. Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and began by asking him about the relationship between India and U.S. and how the Republican Party views ties between the two nations in the long term. Take a look.
I'm very personally proud to be here in India as the son of Indian immigrants who served as the chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. I think only in America could something like that have occurred. And this is an important relationship. It's one I valued during my tenure in government, and it's one that the current administration, despite the headlines, continues to value. So that's my long-winded way of answering your very simple question to say that the U.S.-India relationship is an important one. It's a valued one. Are we in a process of some hiccups right now? Maybe. All good relationships have hiccups. We're going to be fine at the end of the day.
Right. How do we see these very sharp statements which have come from the Trump administration, from the likes of Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and also Peter Navarro, the Trade and Manufacturing Advisor to the White House?
These are negotiating tactics, right? Like, they have a view on trade that they believe that the U.S. has been on the negative side of trade negotiations over the past few decades, and they're trying to recalibrate those negotiations. How they ultimately settle in terms of U.S.-India negotiations are well beyond my radar. I'm an energy policy expert. I'm not a trade expert, so I can't get into the nuances of the back and forth here. But I am someone who is familiar enough with the diplomatic back and forth between the U.S. and India. I'm confident that it will end well for both America.
Where do you think India and U.S. can work more closely together in the coming months? And what do you think this current administration would be expecting from India?
We need to win the AI race against China for national security purposes. It's in India's national security interest. It's in America's interest. We cannot allow an autocracy like the Chinese Communist Party to win the AI race. We got to win it. In order to do so, it's going to take a tremendous amount of energy, a tremendous amount of electricity. I think, in my view, clean energy, solar and storage with gas peakers to balance the grid, are the fastest way we can win that race. I'd much rather have those component parts come from India than from China. That's a huge opportunity.
Now, just to speak about the Republican Party's view on the India-US relationship, is the relationship, according to you, and also in the policy circles among the Republican Party members, is it going through a reset? Is there a rethinking? Or is the long-term view on the India-US partnership intact?
Honestly, and I hate to make things political in this manner, but I have generally found that India has a better relationship with Republican presidents in the U.S. India loved George W. Bush. The relationship between Modi and Trump in the first administration was very strong. India didn't have the best relationship with Obama during his kind of tenure, similarly with Biden. So, again, I'm an energy guy. I like to stay in my lane where I'm comfortable. But I'm also smart enough about politics I can observe things. I have observed that the relationship between the U.S. and India has been better with Republican presidents.
Right. I would also like to ask you, when you speak about collaboration between India and the U.S. in the energy sector, to have a common goal on winning the AI race, what more do you think the U.S., especially President Trump, would expect India to do in the coming months if we want to be a trusted supplier for the US when it comes to green energy components or even in artificial intelligence? What more do we need to do?
Get away from Russia and China. Look, I mean, it's that simple. I think the challenge we're facing right now is India, which has historically been at the epicenter of negotiations between the West and Russia, between the West and China. Come our direction. Get away from China, get away from Russia.
Right. Any milestones that you'd like to probably set for the partnership in terms of AI, in terms of energy transition?
I hate to say it, and I don't want it. I hope that we in the U.S. can figure out the Gordian knot, the math equation around how to provide enough power to support data centers necessary to undergird AI without compromising reliability and affordability in the U.S. I want to figure out how to do that. My concern is we will trip ourselves up, and one of these big data centers that was planned for the Mid-Atlantic or Texas or planned for the U.S. goes overseas. Maybe not even overseas, to Alberta in Canada where they have surplus capacity, or to South Korea or Japan, or God forbid, China. That will be the milestone that I think reorients energy policy in the U.S.
Right. And for those of our viewers in India, would you help us understand the politics behind Donald Trump's tariff strategies? What is the current mood and politics where he's coming from and making his statements from?
He believes that the U.S. has been ripped off for decades by foreign governments and by our allies and adversaries, and he wants to recalibrate that relationship. Look, I'm not perfectly aligned with that. I generally am a free trader. I believe Americans have been the beneficiaries of free trade, but he's got a pretty significant constituency that agrees with his approach to these tough tariff negotiations, these tough trade negotiations. And you got to give credit where credit is due. Maybe he's right and I'm wrong. He might be a lot smarter on this than me.
With that, it's a wrap on another edition of Global Lens. Goodbye and many thanks for watching.